Today we are breaking down the Atlantic City Fight Night card. And to start off the fight of the night, we have Nate Landwehr versus Jamal Emmers. Nate the Train, baby. Clarksville, stand up. Nate Landwehr has a record of 17-5, coming off of a loss, 35 years old, 5'9". Jamal Emmers, fighting out of the Redlands, California, 34 years old, 5'10", coming off of a win. However, he has a spotty win and loss record. He has 20 wins, 7 losses. But Jamal Emmers is a very solid fighter, as well as Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr is a fan favorite, which I hope that he wins just so we can see him around a little bit longer, but my brain is telling me that Jamal Emmers is going to do the smart game plan and try to negate Nate Landwehr biting down on his mouthpiece, swinging for the fences, landing bombs. I think he's going to try to take him down and grind him out. Yeah, I think he's going to try to make it look not as sloppy as Nate Landwehr's fights. And if you don't know who Nate Landwehr is, you need to look up Nate Landwehr versus David Onama. That fight was insane. It's probably one of my favorite fights from last year, minus Tai Tuivasa and Cyril Gane. And yeah, very excited to watch this fight. And on to the second fight of the night, we have Melissa Gatto versus Victoria Dudakova. Melissa Gatto coming off of 2 losses. She is from Brazil, 28 years old, 5'5". Victoria Dudakova is 8-0, 25 years old, training out of Russia. She is 5'5" as well. So stats-wise, they're pretty similar. However, Victoria Dudakova is a much better athlete in my opinion. She is a much better fighter also. And I think she's going to win this fight rather easily by decision. And next up, we have Aibo Aslan versus Anton Turkaj. I'm going to go with Aibo Aslan. He has a record of 12-1, coming off of 4 wins. He is from Turkey, 27 years old, 6'3". And Anton Turkaj has a record of 8-3, coming off of 3 losses, which is rough. That means he was 8-0 and he has lost 3, which is not a good look at all. I'm surprised he's still in the UFC, to be honest, but he is 27 years old, so he is still young. He is 6'4", and yeah, I think Aslan is gonna knock him out rather easily in the first round. I think Anton is kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out at this point, and they're gonna be calling him the pleasure man in the hospital because he's gonna be on a lot of painkillers after this fight. And the next fight, we have Julio Arce versus Herbert Burns. I'm gonna go with Herbert Burns on this one. I'm a fan of the Burns brothers. They're both really nice. Gilbert, well, at least I'm pretty sure they're brothers. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, please. Yeah, I think Herbert Burns is going to get the knockout in the 3rd round via ground and pound. I don't think it's going to be super pretty, but I think it'll be an entertaining fight. I think they're both going to bring it, to be honest. Next up, we have Angel Pasillo versus Kalan the Don Laron. Both of these guys are coming off of a loss. This is Angel's debut in the UFC, which is not great considering he lost his fight in the Contender Series, and I'm honestly surprised he is fighting in the UFC right now, but I think this will be a layup for the Don. I think they're kind of giving him a pick-me fight because he is very popular over in Europe and in Ireland. Next up, we have, I'm going to go LaRon by knockout in the 2nd round. I don't think he's going to get him out of there too quick, but I do think he's going to get him out of there regardless. Next up, we have Connor Matthews versus Dennis Buzukja. I'm going to go with Connor Matthews on this one. I've never really been impressed with Buzukja's fighting style or how game he is. He doesn't seem to be in the nail very well. He's almost always folds once he gets hit a few times clean and gets hurt. Connor Matthews has a record of 7-1, coming off of 2 wins. 31 years old, 5'8", so he is just now coming into his prime physically. And Dennis Buzukja, quite the opposite. He is coming off of 2 losses. He is still young. He is 26 years old, and he is 5'9". So, I mean, there is a chance that he can turn it around. I'm not going to completely write him off, but in this fight, I'm going to have to go with Connor Matthews. He's been much more consistent, and he has proven to be a better fighter, in my opinion. Next up, we have Andre Petroski versus Jacob Malkoun. This is a tricky fight. It could honestly go either way. I'm going to go with Malkoun. He's a bigger hitter, willing to make it a little bit more dirty, willing to bite down on his mouthpiece. Not that Andre isn't, but I've seen a little bit more from Jacob that tells me that he's going to edge this one out. I think it'll be a decision. I think it'll be a very fun fight, and I think both of these guys will gain some fans at the end of it. Andre Petroski has a record of 10-2. He's training out of the United States, 32 years old, 6 feet even. Jacob Malkoun is 7-3, training out of Australia, 28 years old, and he is 5'9". He's a little short guy for middleweight, but like I said, he does pack a punch. Next up, we have Fernanda Jandiroba versus Lupita Godinez. Jandiroba's record is 19-3. She is from Brazil, 35 years old, 5'3". Lupita Godinez has a record of 12-3, coming off of 4 wins. She is from Guadalajara, Mexico, 30 years old, 5'2". So they're both rather short. It's 115 pounds, so they're not very big anyway. But I'm going to go with Lupi on this one. She seems to be a better fighter in my opinion, just not as strong. I think she'll play it smart and edge out a decision. Next up, we have Bill Algeo. He has a record of 18-7, coming off of 2 wins. Trains out of Pennsylvania, 34 years old, and he is 6 foot even. He is fighting Kyle Nelson, 15-5-1, coming off of 2 wins and a draw. Trains out of Ontario, Canada, 32 years old, 5'11". So they're pretty much the same height, pretty much the same wingspan as well. Algeo has 73-inch reach. Nelson has a 71-inch reach. So it's not really any difference. I'm going to go with Kyle Nelson on this one. A little bit younger, not as much experience, but I've seen him strike and I've seen him grapple, and I feel like he's going to edge it out with a knockout in the 3rd round. But I think it'll be up there for fight of the night. I think this is going to be a sleeper fight, and I'm excited to watch this, as well as this next fight. Nursultan Raziboev versus Cedriques Dumas. Dumas is an interesting fighter. He reminds me a lot of Jamal Hill. Throws a lot of straight punches, and he throws a lot of high kicks, which seems to work rather well because he throws in volume. He doesn't just throw like 1 or 2 here, 1 or 2 there. He throws like 5-6 punch combinations with the high kick, and yeah, he's very fun to watch. However, I'm going to go with Raziboev on this one. He has much more experience. His record is 33-8-2. He is from Uzbekistan, but he trains out of Pennsylvania. He is 30 years old, 6'5", so he is tall for middleweight. And Cedriques Dumas has a record of 9-1, coming off of 2 wins. Pensacola, Florida. He is 28 years old, so he is in his physical prime right now. 6'2", 79-inch reach. I think that Raziboev is going to submit him in the last round. I don't think it'll be an easy fight for either guy. I think it'll be up there for fight of the night as well. This is one of the few fights that I am looking forward to on this card. I am high on both of these guys, and I think most people are as well. And for the next fight, we have Chidi Jokwani coming off of 3 losses, which is rough. He has a record of 22-10, 35 years old, 6'3", 80-inch reach. He is fighting Rhys McKee, 13-5 record. We're coming off 1 loss. He is from Ireland. He is 28 years old, 6'2", and has a 78-inch reach. So both guys are pretty tall for welterweight. They are really tall for welterweight, actually. But I'm going to go with Rhys McKee on this one. I've never really been that high on Chidi and Jokwani. I think he's going to get cut after this fight, unfortunately. And I'm going to take Rhys McKee by knockout in the 1st round. And next up is another sad tale. Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva. I think Bruno Silva is going to mog Chris Weidman and knock him out in the 2nd round. I think it's going to be a sad one to watch. I think Chris Weidman's done. I think he should have retired after his last fight, but I want Chris Weidman to win just because he is a solid guy. I have nothing negative to say about him. Same thing with Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva didn't really get the recognition he deserved. If you don't know about Bruno Silva, I recommend watching his Alex Pereira fight. He had an insane chin, and he gave Alex Pereira a run for his money early on in the UFC, which is nothing to scoff at. Bruno Silva is coming off of 2 losses, fighting out of Brazil, 34 years old, 6 foot even. Chris Weidman is also coming off of 2 losses, however. In his Uriah Hall fight, his 2nd loss ago, he broke his leg. As most people probably know, it was really hard to watch. Everybody felt bad for him. He is 39 years old, training out of New York, 6'2", so he is a little bit taller than Bruno Silva. Yeah, definitely Silva by knockout in the 2nd round, unfortunately. Next up, we have a very fun scrap, but whether it's going to be fight of the night or performance of the night, I am not sure. Probably performance. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque over Jaquan Buckley. Vicente Luque has a record of 22-9, coming off of a win. He is from Brazil, 32 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach. Jaquan Buckley is coming off of 2 wins, training out of Missouri, 29 years old, 5'10", and has a 76-inch reach. So he's a little bit shorter, but he can hit very hard, and he is very fast, and He is also athletic. He needs to be more patient and pick his shots a little bit better, which he has shown previously. He's just not super consistent with it. But I'm going to go with Luque on this one. I think he's going to put it on him, especially if Jaquan Buckley cannot get it to the ground. And even if he does, I'm not even sure if he can beat Luque on the ground. Luque is, in my opinion, underrated on the ground. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight. I'll take Luque by knockout in the third round. And for the main event, we have Aaron Blanchfield fighting Manon Fiorot. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the least anticipated fights on this card, at least for me. Aaron Blanchfield's one of the few prospects in WMA right now, and I think that's not going to stop anytime soon. She has a record of 12-1. Training out of New York, 24 years old, 5'4" with a 68-inch reach. So she is very young for the UFC, but she is very good at grappling, very good at staying composed. Same thing with Manon Fiorot. She's just, in my opinion, much more boring than Aaron Blanchfield. I honestly completely forgot that she fought Rose in her last fight. Yeah, that's not a good sign. Her record is 11-1, training out of France. She is 34 years old, so she is a little bit long in the tooth. She is 5'7", and she has a 66-inch reach. And she's a boxer primarily, so that's another reason why I'm picking Aaron Blanchfield. I think that she's going to be able to take all the shots and get her against the cage, put her down on the ground, and grind out a decision. And if it doesn't go to a decision, it's most likely going to be a submission, which I honestly hope for. I'm not really looking forward to a 25-minute fight. Yeah, if you agree with my picks, let me know. If you disagree on my picks, let me know. And if you guys like the content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great weekend.